start with a little experiment with some bodies on stage, but I'm going to wait for a moment. Welcome online to all of you that are there. So great that you could join us. In fact, the online participants, you have a very particular role for this session, and my request of you is that you hold that role of an observer. And in that role of observer, be aware of the way that bodies are used in space. Perhaps shift your awareness not only from what you're hearing and understanding intellectually, but begin to be aware of what you notice when people are on stage, or when I'm using my body, or anything that you hear, anything that you can perceive from within that frame where you are. Welcome to those that are trickling in. So I love this Jeffrey Godbert, my heart has been speaking, so my head has been taking notes. And actually, he said my heart has been speaking, so I have been taking notes. And I changed it a little bit, because by saying I have been taking notes, he's perpetuating this idea that the head and the heart are separate, that the intellect and that the intelligence of the body are two separate entities. When in fact, part of this conversation today is we will explore how they are one and the same. Now they're constantly interacting and influencing each other. Maybe we could start with that experiment on stage. And by the way, anything that I suggest that you do or ask you to do today is up to you. You can decide not to do it at all. You decide to what degree of participation you want to engage. And even if you do come on stage and you decide in that moment that you don't want to do it, that's great. You are the boss. Up to you. Okay. These three chairs here represent and they hold the very particular role of the observer. And so part of this conversation is about this idea of self, internal, personal, and other, external. Of course, this feeds into this notion, this idea of empathy. And so if you want to, at any point, just come and sit on one of these chairs, and when you're in that chair, allow yourself to perceive a little bit differently, to listen with your eyes, perhaps to think with what you hear. Just sort of give yourself an opportunity to observe in a different way, perhaps. How's everyone doing? On a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being really low energy, kind of so almost present, just really low and bum, and that's okay. 10 being really energized, really happy to be here, present in my body. And as I move through that scale from 0 to 10, I just want you to make a noise, emit some kind of a sound to represent where you are. Online, you can do that as well if you want. Does that make sense? Yep. Makes sense. Okay, great. I'm going to start here. So you're all around 5 or 6. See if you can make that sound, punctuate that sound just for a moment, so that it lands on that particular point between 0 and 10. Okay? Okay, great, thank you. So before I introduce myself a little bit more, I'd like to have maybe 5 volunteers, 5 brave souls to come up on stage. I promise you it's low risk, low stakes. It'll be okay. Thank you, gentlemen here. Thank you, please come up. Great, maybe 2 more, maybe 1 more. 4 is fine too. Okay, great, thank you. Well, wonderful, thank you. So what I invite you to do is to just simply, you've got the whole stage. I just ask you to just begin walking around the stage, moving around the stage, and start exploring. See what you can discover through your sensory awareness, through what you see, through what you touch, through what you feel. I wouldn't recommend that you taste anything, but you're welcome to do that if you want to. And just allow your body, you can do it in your own way, but allow your body just to be a bit more loose and follow your senses. Use your eyes, follow your hands as you touch, and look at all the dimensions that are possible for you to explore on the stage. Is that okay? And then I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do that, and then the rest of you, I'd just like you to just simply observe them and see what you might discover in that observation. Okay. In your own time, at your own pace, please continue. And in the next 20 seconds, just find a way to slowly conclude your exploration. Wonderful, thank you. Just give them a round of applause, please. So that's a beautiful performance. I would like to know from you first, what did you discover in that little experience? Yeah, do we have a mic? There's a mic on the floor there. Maybe we can just quickly pass it around. Thank you.
That there are quite a number of patterns in this space, and it was fascinating for me to touch moving stuff. And as soon as I touched this set over here, when it shook, I immediately stepped away because I didn't want to push it over. But I found those strings quite exciting for me to just, touch and move my fingers around. So it was fun.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I took time to explore the space, and then by this got to connect with the space.
Mm-hmm. Lovely. Thank you.
Yeah, I found that I felt small when we were standing in a line together, like there wasn't a lot of room, but then when we all started walking around, I didn't find myself almost walking into anyone or having to think about avoiding someone. It was as if I had the whole space to myself on some weird level, which I was really surprised by because I felt quite cluttered. It's not the right word. It just felt smaller.
Interesting. So you actually had a shift in your felt sense.
Yeah.
I think for me, because the question, the statement that you made was for us to explore, the thing that I was thinking was, what do we need to do next? So my mind was in that state of, okay, what are we going to do with the information that he wants from us? And I think that cluttered my experience of exploring this whole space.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things that I invite you to do in this kind of exploration is to throw your intellect a bone. And keep it on a leash. Don't let it run away because we need it. But sometimes we try to intellectualize the process and the experience, and that gets in the way of deepening our sensory intelligence. Thank you for sharing it. Would you like to share?
I just noticed that there's more to explore than you would usually have on a stage, which is nice. It's designed in a way that there's these different layers and with the strings behind, and actually there's more potential for exploring because of the way it's been designed.
Yeah.
But also it made me think of boundaries because I instinctively thought I can't play the guitar because that belongs to someone. So just kind of being aware of you can only go so far. But
lovely. Thank you. Who else heard the music when the strings were played? Yeah? Did you hear the music? Thank you very much. And just very quickly, online as well, if you'd like to just share any of your observations, please do. If you perhaps did this at home. Is there anyone here that would like to just share? What did you discover by observing? I'm curious.
Thank you for being brave. Is this on?
Is it on? It should be. Try it.
Hello? There we go. Thank you for being brave enough to get on the stage. It was interesting to watch when you were all lined up alongside each other. There was a level of trepidation. You were looking at each other, but unsure about what you were going to do next. But it was interesting to see how many of you gravitated to touching and looking at the mechanics of how the stage had been composed or put together. And then, obviously the strings were a big hit. And also the slide, it looks like it slides. You were all interested in how that worked as well. And some of you also gravitated to color and wanted to walk into a line, which was interesting to see as well. So that's it.
Beautiful, thank you. Yeah, okay.
I was just thinking a little bit about sort of empathy and effective empathy. So it was interesting when you looked up, then I looked up, and I hadn't looked up before you did. So when you were experiencing things, I felt like I was also experiencing things, which was interesting.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. One more gentleman, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, it just really struck me how we prioritize sight all the time. And, we've been sitting here looking at this stage for the last day or so, and then seeing you guys all interacting with the different pieces that were moving and were shape-driven, etc. So you almost become like a proxy for myself. And to Jill's point, I was kind of learning through what you were doing, and I guess that's why we love watching movies, because we're watching other people doing things that we can relate to. So there's an unlocking of a whole lot of new meaning.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. So, yeah, thank you. You're welcome to return to seats. Give them another round of applause, please. So this exercise, what I wanted to emphasize here is that our body... Did anybody talk to you or tell you anything about the stage at all? Was anybody speaking to you during the experience? And so what I want to emphasize is that our bodies are a domain of learning, a domain of knowledge holding, and absolutely a domain of perceiving. We're constantly receiving information from the outside world through our bodies, through our senses, that then gets processed through our brain, through our logical thinking. And then we act on the world through how our body responds to what our head is doing. And we'll leave it at that. We'll feed that back into the conversation going forward. So what I want to do today in the next, we've got 45 minutes, I think, is to slow down really quickly and to begin to celebrate the fact of our bodies, this mobile laboratory that we have that serves us in ways that we're often unaware of, and to begin to interrogate ways in which we can discover and leverage our embodied intelligence, and ways in which our bodies can have more agency in the design process, and utilize our bodies through the language of gesture and metaphor, and strategically feed that into the work we're already doing. And also to anticipate a more connected future through a deeper sensory awareness of ourselves, of others, and our environment. And so my background is in theater. I spent many years traveling the world, many years in Asia. I was based in Norway for 14 years, grew up in South Africa. But I spent a lot of time traveling, exploring and researching anthropological forms of theater and performance. Japanese Nogaku, the oldest form of theater in the world, Buto, a contemporary form in Japan, Indian Kathakali, Balinese dance, and many others. I was also very influenced by Russian methodology in theater making, where they give agency to the performers in the creative process, and the director is more of a facilitator of the creative process. And this influence of the role of facilitator as director, or director as facilitator, that influences the way that I facilitate in applied context. Nonetheless, I came back to South Africa 15 years ago, really enriched and enlivened and inspired by all these incredible experiences I had. And I went to university to do a master's to consolidate all this work. And while I was doing a master's, I decided to pivot into the applied space, because I really felt I had this richness, this knowing, this deep kind of connection to the sensory awareness and this ability to somatically explore within my body. I felt really fortunate and lucky, and I knew that this would be beneficial to a lot of people that were somehow closed in the bodies and very top-heavy, head-heavy, led by the intellect constantly. I knew there was something really, really powerful and important to share. But what I underestimated was, first of all, the readiness of people in organizations, particularly business, to receive this work and to understand it. But most importantly, I underestimated my ability to talk about this work in a way that would have value, to understand where the need was, and to formulate this work and package it in a way that could be received. And so I'm still grappling with that, but I've come a little bit further along the way. And in 2016, I discovered design thinking, and I heard the mantras of embracing diversity. I thought, oh, that's great, we do that in theater making. Navigating ambiguity, that's what we do as well. Celebrating mistakes, wonderful. All these mantras in design thinking, learn by doing, oh great, we're going to be moving our bodies. That was the assumption. And so I thought, well, this is going to be a really great framework, a methodology, a way that I could kind of jump on board, catch the boat to the other side of the river. And so I took a design thinking facilitators training, and a week later was cycling way too overambitious and inexperienced, and hit a jump and landed on my back and broke 4 vertebrae, transverse process. Fortunately, not a spinal issue. And so I was on my back for 6 weeks. And quite ironically, this afforded me the opportunity to kind of be a hypocrite, to begin reading as much as I could about design thinking on my back, and to feed my conceptual awareness, feed my intellect with the language and a deep understanding of how this work was already being utilized. And in that way start considering and sensing into how this richness, this knowledge that I had from theater, I could start feeding into the design thinking process. And this is where I am with you today. So I learned to steer the boat. I began training in design thinking as much as I could, and feel quite comfortable in that domain. But I feel a little bit kind of frustrated in that often designers talk about doing things differently, but keep doing things differently in the same way. Talk about a learn by doing approach, and the doing is often just sitting and talking. Oh, I've got this thing here. And I do encourage you to put your hand up and comment or object at any point, make it a conversation. So I'd like to give you, I'm trying to, 4, there we go. These are just 4 questions to ponder. I'll give you a minute to ponder these questions, just as an initiation into, to initiate into this conversation. Ponder these questions and then we'll start from that. Just a minute. Maybe there's 1 question, maybe 4 of them. If you agree or disagree or somehow can't relate to what it's asking. Just a quick minute. And so I invite you just to turn to someone next to you now, and just for a quick minute, just to discuss, just share what's coming up for you when you read these. Is it a sense of frustration? Is there whatever it is, just discuss quickly for a minute. Yes, question. Yeah, comment.
First, to have empathy with yourself, and then you can have empathy for others.
Thank you very much. Because what you notice is that these questions are actually focused on self, internal. And I love that. Self-empathy. In order to have empathy for others, we need to learn to have empathy for ourselves. And I agree with that. Thank you. So just spend a quick minute just discussing any one of these questions. What comes up for you? Does it provoke any other question for you? Okay, just wrap that up in 10 seconds, please. Okay, fantastic. So I'd like to maybe just field 1 or 2 responses from that. If anyone has something they'd like to share very quickly. Anything? Okay. Our way of being. When I ask you, how are you? I'm talking about your way of being. This is an ontological concept. And the way you are in any of these 3 domains determines your reality. There is a constant interaction, interrelating, co-influencing dynamic between body and movement, your physiology, your language and your thinking, and the domain of moods and emotions. And they're constantly always influencing each other. It's impossible that one is operating independently of the other. And so in the middle is the experience of a human being, and that's the place where the designer operates as well. And so your reality is how you observe the world, and how you observe the world determines how you act on the world. And often we are limited in our way of being by things that we're not aware of. And so the way that we become better and more powerful observers is to go into the dynamics of our way of being, become more aware of those invisibles. When we start raising to the surface the invisible, the things we're not aware of that we can't see, we learn to create more range and more choice in how we act on the world. Our lens in perceiving the world and the way that we act on the world expands and grows. So it was Descartes who set in motion this idea that the mind and the body are separate entities. In fact, the mind is just, the body is just a taxi for the brain. He said, I think, therefore I am. And this concept, this notion has just been kind of accepted by society at large, and still today it perpetuates. Even in design thinking here, we talk about making sense. But actually, if you think about it, making sense reveals the bodily origins of reasoning and thinking. And that our bodies, we don't reason because we have a body, but more that the very structure of reasoning is determined by the bodily dynamics of our embodiment and our the neural pathways that we create. This idea of symbols and felt sense, if you want to talk about these two domains, and often we separate them out. How can we start to think about our intelligence as more than just what we intellectualize, but something that lives in our felt sense experience as well, and informs our thinking, informs the way that we perceive and act on the world, and informs our creativity. So we have, on the one hand, our conceptual awareness, and our conceptual awareness is our rational thinking. It's experienced in language, expressed in language, symbols. It's logical. And conceptual awareness can transcend space and time. We can imagine futures that don't yet exist. We can go back into the past, and we can really create that which isn't here yet, which is amazing. We can transcend space and time with our conceptual awareness. And it's experienced through facts and figures, details, story, narrative. Our embodied awareness is through our senses. We experience through our senses, felt sense, through pain, movement, through its creativity. It's open, it's concrete. And our embodied awareness is experienced in the here and the now, present moments, felt sense awareness. Our body awareness is experienced through emotions, through those elements that are invisible. And there's a 4E cognition, a model of cognitive awareness or embodied cognition that talks about how cognition is extended beyond just our brain, that our cognition is embodied, first of all, in a physical felt sense body. We hold our cognition in the way that we perceive the world, in the way that we act in the world. It's embodied. It's also embedded. Cognition is embedded in our culture, in our society, in the context within which we operate. It's enacted through our actions and the way that we problem solve, the way we speak, the way we act, the way we use our body, the way we interact. And it's also extended through tools, through our phones, through the post-it notes, through pens, so the way that we interact with the world, the tools and the mechanisms through which we make meaning as well. Actually, I'm going to come back to this very quickly. Cool, there's not too many people. I want to invite you all, if you don't want to, please just stay seated, that's okay. I invite you all just to stand up for a moment. So often we also think about different ways of thinking. Linear thinking and non-linear thinking. So the creatives go, yeah, I'm a non-linear thinker. And the intellects go, I'm a linear thinker. I'm happy with that. Maybe we can just explore this experiment How does it feel? What are the different sensations involved in linear thinking or nonlinear thinking? We tried that through walking. So exactly where you are, I invite you just to walk up and down the aisles. Just start doing that. And just become aware of what it feels like to walk up and down the aisles in straight lines. That's the objective here. Walk in straight lines. Straight lines. Be very clear, be very intentional. Straight lines.
My colleague is not able to participate, and I don't know what she's doing.
That's okay. No, she's participating. Sorry, ma'am. You're observing. You're perfect right there. It's perfectly good. Love that there's a greeting happening here. Okay, so just come to a stop next to a chair somewhere. Right. Perfect. So just remember to take a deep breath. Take a nice deep breath in. And just drop into your body. One more deep breath. The breath is the anchor. The breath is the key, bringing you back to your present moment awareness. Okay, wonderful. What does it feel like to walk in straight lines? Yeah. Very safe, relaxing, pretty easy, yes. Okay, and then what happened? Okay. And how did that feel to like break out of the straight line? Okay. Okay. Great. Thank you. Yeah. Unnatural for you. Okay. So felt comfortable for you. Okay. Are you a creative? Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you. So what I'm gonna. This may get a bit messy. I don't know. I'm gonna ask you wherever you are right now. Grab a chair. Just before you grab it. Pick up the chair and move it to somewhere else in the space. Remember where it is and you're going to bring it back there. So just got 30 seconds. Move it somewhere else in space. Okay. Please be aware of people's things on the floor. Just make sure you don't step on them. Okay, you're going to come back to that chair and bring it back to the stage again. And online, you can also move stuff around in your space here if you want to and explore and play with this. Okay. All right. So what I'd like you to do now is to really be creative and explore how you can move through the space using only organic lines. Think about, if you look in this building, before you start, if you look in this building, there's lots of straight lines, right? We're good at creating straight lines, lots of straight lines. But if you look out in nature, do you see any straight lines? Lots of curvy, organic lines. And it's a very different, very contrasting environment, which I think is interesting. So what I'd like you to do now is just explore moving in the organic lines. No straight lines at all. Be very intentional about that. Only move in organic lines and just check in with how that feels. What's the sensation? And ma'am, you're observing. You're playing a really key role here. You're observing. Okay, beautiful. And then just come to a standstill. We're slowing down really quickly. Okay, great. Thank you. Maybe one or two reflections on the floor. How was that different to the first way of walking, if at all? How did it feel different? You felt a bit lost, yeah? You anticipate your movement in the moment, as opposed to?
As opposed to knowing where you're going to go. If you're walking in a straight line, you know you're going.
Interesting, yeah?
I felt free I could do anything I wanted to.
Okay, awesome, yeah? Okay, brilliant, yeah. Yes, one more.
Like you can take up a lot more space.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. So, do you think that or do you feel that you observe differently to when you're walking one way compared to the other way? Maybe. You notice things that you perhaps didn't notice before, right? And so, while you're getting your chair now, I'd like you to grab your chair and as you're walking back, to your chair. Experiment with walking in both straight lines and organic lines in the moment. Be very intentional about when you're walking straight line and an organic line. Just explore and play with that. Okay, go. To bring your chair back to, grab that chair you moved and put it back on the floor. Yeah, thank you so much. So, what I'd like to propose is, and encourage you to think about, we talk about a mindset in design thinking a lot, mindset. But actually, our mindset is also influenced and determined by our body set. In fact, you cannot refute that the brain is inside a body, and our body is an instrument of perception, an instrument of action on the world. And to discount the ability to build awareness of our embodied intelligence and work with our conceptual intelligence in strategic and intentional ways, I think is an opportunity lost. So very quickly, our main channels for sensing the world is through exteroception. We know exteroception, our senses, sight, touch, taste, hearing, and smell, right? And we are, anatomically, our exteroception is, we need to survive in the world. We've evolved to be able to survive and run away from wild animals and from danger. And so the neural wiring is very large. It operates very quickly. It's myelinated, which means insulated, and it's often conscious. We're aware of our exteroceptive capabilities. Proprioception, also very large neural wiring, so that we're able to run away from prey. We're able to orient ourselves in space. Proprioception is about your ability. It's about to recognize yourself in relation to other. It's about your balance, gesture, using your body in expressive ways. This is your proprioceptive ability. And this, again, you can become conscious of it quite easily. Often it happens unconsciously. Our embodiment, the way we use ourselves, the way we carry ourselves, is a consequence of our neural system, our neurons firing and wiring throughout our lives, responding to the environment around us. And it shows up in how we are embodied. And this influences the way that we perceive the world and the way we act on the world again. So we can make shifts in our embodiment, but it's slow work. It's not that easy. But the gateway to making shifts in our embodiment in intentional, conscious ways is through our interoceptive awareness, internal sensations. A lot of these sensations we're not aware of. Our heartbeat, our regulation of our blood, and blood pressure, that kind of thing. They're very small, slow, and they're not myelinated neural systems. But we can build our awareness of these internal sensations, which is embodied intelligence. And we often have an impoverished vocabulary for how we talk about how do you feel? How do you feel? I'm picking on you. Fine, thanks. So if I pressed you, I'm sure you would be able to give perhaps a deeper response. How do you feel? How do I feel? Right now, I'm noticing a little bit of a sensation of sweat in my forehead, a little bit warm. My heart has calmed down a little bit. And I can feel the sensation of my feet on the ground. So we talk about how do you feel. I'm fine, thanks, that's the way we normally respond. But there's an opportunity to tap deeper into your internal felt sense, so that you can feel more and sense more into the way this body is responding to the world, and the way that your world of symbols is being influenced by that internal sensation. And so proprioception, interoception is a lot about the work of embodiment, embodied intelligence, which is very slow, the work of mindfulness, conscious breathing, the ways in which we can regulate our emotions through regulating our breath, influence our internal state to be more calm, more connected, more centered, more grounded. This is all the work of embodiment, which often is a pathway through interoception and exteroception. Proprioception is very much what the world of theatre is, an applied theatre, where we're using our body in space as a gesture, as a language in itself. You know, the language of gesture arrived before even verbal language. And so through our proprioceptive abilities, we work with these activated, animated ways of working, and the body as a design tool to help surface things that we can't see, deepen insights, deepen empathy, etc. And we'll look at that in a second again. So at the end of last year, I went with my family to Cape Vidal, which is a beautiful nature reserve of wetlands on the coast of Natal. And there are crocodiles, there are hippos, there are badgers, there are genets, there are leopards, there are all kinds of animals. And it's a beautiful place. And we started driving. I was with my daughter and my partner. We started driving. There was a row of trees on the other side, and I knew there was a beautiful lake on the outside there, and I really wanted to get to it. I wanted to see the animals. And I was driving a little bit fast. I think the speed limit was 40, and I was going about 60, and my partner said, slow down. I was like, but, you know, there's nothing to see. She said, slow down. I can't see anything. I was okay. So I slowed down. And as I slowed down, there was a little sign for Mission Rocks Lookout. Oh, okay, let's go through, you know, take the detour. Slowed down, took the detour, and as we came around the corner, there was this kudu bull. Wow! I would have definitely gone right past it. I wouldn't have seen it. So the kudu bull, a beautiful animal. You know, there's quite a few kudus you see them. Beautiful kudu bull. Let's carry on. And so straight away, I was a little bit more out of my head with wanting this agenda of wanting to get there and see the animals that I couldn't see yet, and started driving on this little route towards Mission Rocks. And we came to a point where we had to park the car and then walk up some stairs to a lookout point. And we got out the car, still out in nature, there's all manner of animals around, and walked up feeling a little bit, hey, okay, there's no fencing here at all, this is safe. Walked to the top of Mission Rocks, and wow, I looked over, I could see beyond the trees, out into the landscape. I could take it all in. It was amazing, beautiful. That's where we're going. Could see the lake, could see flocks of animals in the distance. And then my partner said, hey, look. She pointed to the ground, and there was a track. She said, that's a leopard trail. Leopard track, look at that print. I was like, no, that's not leopard. She said, it is. Took out our map, and we looked it up, and sure enough, that was a leopard print, and it looked pretty fresh. And I had this I could feel the excitement rising, like, wow, there's a leopard. There's leopards around here. My daughter's like looking around, we're looking for the leopard, and then we started noticing the plants, and touching the plants, and still aware that there's a leopard perhaps. My senses were activated. I was more in the moment. I wasn't concerned about where I was wanting to get to. We slowed down off that fast road, just being able to see what's ahead and seeing the trees passing by. We slowed down, and because we slowed down, we got to the point where we started becoming activated and connected to the environment. Then we left there and went back to the car and got in the car and carried on driving. But by now, I was okay driving slowly because I knew that the environment was full of these inputs, full of these discoveries that I could make by just slowing down, and I was connected, I was activated. And to cut a long story short, at the end of the day, we did a big loop, saw lots of animals, and as we were coming back into the keep it real. We'll play on the words there. And let's go off track. Let's take a detour for a moment. Because slowing down is important. Let's give that some priority, as opposed to just doing things quickly all the time. Often talk about working in a rapid way. But when we slow down, we become more aware, more considerate. We're able to notice more deeply, more intently, able to step away from our agenda and be more connected. Surely that's good for our work in empathy. And reflection, Peter Drucker said, follow effective action with deep reflection. And after deep reflection, more effective action will follow. And so a kind of a segue into using your body in a way that's safe is to start with reflection. Consider where we are, where are there still gaps, what do we want to explore a bit more, where's the starting point, and then going into embodiment. So the dimension of you as a designer, can you influence your embodiment? Can you learn to show up in that moment and be of service to your collaborators and to your clients? Was it Robert Collins? The quality of an intervention depends on the interior quality of the intervener. There are opportunities for us to influence our embodiment in ways that we are perhaps not doing. More calm, arrive as a designer, as an observer. We talk about immersing ourselves into context and environments, but can we immerse ourselves and allow our bodies, this instrument, to be able to feed us with information intentionally and bring it above that threshold level of conscious awareness so that we can enhance our insights, enhance the solutions, enhance the work we're doing through this beautiful marriage of our conceptual and embodied awareness. So from embodiment, this side of embodiment and reflection is quite passive. And embodiment, as we spoke about earlier, is the individual. It's about the personal, interior. And then we can go on to the application of this embodied awareness into a more proprioceptive domain, external, the relational context around us, which is enroll. So enroll is really looking at what do we want to explore? What is the methodology that we can use to explore what we've discovered, where the gaps are? And then live play, then we activate it. And I'm going to take you through this very quickly, maybe do 1 or 2 exercises on the stage, so you get a sense of how this works in practice. So in reflection, some of us are visual artists, and we reflect by writing and drawing, Play-Doh, creating. And so we can also already create metaphors of where we are in the design process, where we want to get to, what do we know, what kind of data do we have. Let's talk about the context for change. What do you want to explore? Where are the gaps? So these are the kind of questions you can ask in the reflection. And some of you are masters in reflective work. And there's different ways you can feed all the stuff that you already do into this process. Let's reflect, like where do we want to go with from here? Physical reflection as well. Remember I said just now that the body gesture is a language unto itself. And then into embodiment. Slow to a state of unhurried. And we slow down so that we can speed up again. It's a great strategy. If we keep going fast the whole time, we're limiting our ability to be responsive to what's around us. We build awareness. This is part of the practice of embodiment. We use the breath intentionally, many, many different ways in which the breath can enhance and help you build awareness of not only your own internal state, but awareness of what's around. Embodiment skills are really, really, really powerful. Centering. Actually, let's do a quick centering exercise now. How do we talk about safe space, psychological safety. Here's a good one that you can take home. Instead of, oh my God, that like activates the sympathetic nervous system and you're on fight or flight. What about OMG, a different orientation? Orient, move, ground. So if you'd like to just be comfortable, put your books down if you want, but just find a comfortable space. And just, you can close your eyes if you want, you can keep them open. Just bring your awareness to sensation in you right now. Notice your bottom on the chair, the sensation of your bottom on the chair. Just bring awareness to that, that's all. Notice the sensation of your clothes on your body somewhere. Bring your awareness to your breath. How are you breathing now? Is it shallow? Is it deep? Any feeling that you're holding. And now you can open your eyes, we're still orienting, and just look around the space. Take your finger and begin to trace the lines in the space around you. Playfully, curiously, lightly, just take your finger, all the objects, any shape or form that you see, just use your finger to trace. Begin to orient yourself into the environment around you. Beautiful. And then just turn to someone around you and say, Sawubona. So orient yourself towards safety. Okay. And then move. Just move your toes, move your fingers, move your toes, maybe. Your hands. Do something that you don't normally do, perhaps. La 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 la. Okay, beautiful. And then ground. So just take a deep breath in. And every time you breathe out, allow yourself to feel heavier and heavier on the ground. Just bring for a moment your attention and awareness to this present moment. Okay, wonderful. So in that way, we've just thrown our intellect a bone, not too far, and we're present, we're grounded in the present moment. It's a wonderful place to be. And so we can work with movement as well, and there's many different exercises and ways of working with our exteroception, interoception, and proprioception in this embodiment. Come to your senses. Yeah, again, there's another way. And metaxis is important. So in this work, in theater work, you normally have an audience and a stage, and there's this invisible wall between them, self and other, very strong. Metaxis, we break that wall down. We bring theater principles and ways of working outside of the stage into everyday environments and contexts in creative work. And metaxis is this ability to have dual perception, to have an experience and to observe yourself having the experience at the same time. It's this way of kind of the self and other. And in our work with empathy, to be able to observe yourself having a moment of interaction, observe yourself experiencing an environment and observe that at the same time gives you this dual awareness, this dual capacity to perceive. When we work with some activated ways, some theater techniques, some role play, some simulations, if you are responding and observing the world as someone else, we come to that experience with more empathy. Okay, so these are set and setting is important. Set is about your mindset, your body set, the way you approach the work. You have that responsibility. Setting is about your environment, your immediate environment, being aware of your environment. If you're working with this stuff in creative ways, your environment matters. Like this beautiful space we have here, it stimulates you. It's inspiring in so many ways. All the colors, all the beautiful shapes, things that are available for our senses to explore and play and to be stimulated. The setting matters. So consider that. And then we select a format. We assess where we are in the process. What is it we want to explore? Obviously, the assumptions that you are aware of some of the ways in which these techniques and tools play out. Select a format, and then we play it. So here are just some interviews. We can actually just play with that now. Can anybody bring up a situation, perhaps something that you're working with or something you're concerned about in the world, where there are multiple stakeholders or multiple voices that need to be considered? Yes.
It's a land claim in Makassar.
Okay.
So it's a community, multiple. Oh, sorry. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks. It's a land claim process in Makassar.
Okay. Yeah. Are you okay to come on the stage?
Okay. Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
And how many different voices are there? So the prominent voices that need to be considered.
There are about 354.
Okay. Wonderful. Can you really have how many representations of those voices? So what are the different stakeholders that are involved in that?
Yeah, well, it's the community members or the claimants.
Yeah.
So they're involved. Obviously, also the Land Claims Commission.
Yeah.
And but then obviously you've got text, you've got histories that are written already by other historians or other researchers. So it's
Okay.
not only people,
Okay.
but it's other resources, archival
Okay.
resources, maps, you know.
Okay, wonderful.
But oral history interviews and life experiences are being recorded to over the claim of this commonage in Macassar, which is near Fora, which is
Okay.
near Vergenoegd, yeah.
So could we identify four representations of voices here that need to be represented?
Yeah, so Land Claims Commissioner is
Okay.
Wayne Alexander.
And so we need 3 more volunteers, unless you please to come up on stage.
The claimants, which are over 354 claimants, I think, at this point. It's a community claim, so it's a group
Okay.
claim.
Community.
And then obviously your attorneys,
Okay.
legal representation. And then the researchers, like myself, who would interview
Okay.
community members,
Brilliant.
look for evidence of the usage of the commonage, which is a land that was used for cattle grazing, firewood collection, making lime, making waxberry candles, all the dairy farming. So trying to prove those activities happened on the commonage for the claim, because they're 2 competing claims
Okay.
as well over the same piece of land.
Okay,
So it
wonderful.
becomes difficult. So those are the other voices, or the 2 competing claims.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you to keep telling us more
Okay.
about all those voices. In the meantime, I
All right.
would like 3 more people to come up and say, please. 3 brave souls.
Come and help me, please.
If it feels, thank you.
Yay!
Brilliant. So we're going to put chairs out here. On each chair is the voice that you are representing. And you don't have to sit yet. And you can just keep giving us more information, please.
all right.
As much. How do each of these different voices feel? What is their
Yes.
position? What is it that we... So I don't expect you to go through it all.
Yeah,
but
no, it's fine.
Can I have one more person up on stage, please?
Yeah, so it's basically land claims in South Africa post apartheid. So a big part of our the land reform and restitution agenda. Obviously, people know about District 6 and people moving back to District 6, but these are other areas where land claims are taking place, and some of them. This particular land claim in Macassar has been ongoing for 20 years in the courts. It's a long time. In Constantia, there have been successful land claims that have been concluded. So the Constantia Emporium Shopping Centre is an example of that. That's been built on land that was reclaimed. So I've been involved as a researcher in
Okay.
historical research.
Okay.
So that's my positionality in the.
Okay. So obviously, if you were designers and you were part of this project, you would know a lot more about these different voices and the conflicts and the dynamics between them, right? So if you feel comfortable to just assume that you know more than you actually do. And so the way it works is that, I'm going to hold that. So Dr. Haley, would you like to take a seat in the researcher's chair? So for now. So face inward. And right, this is researcher's chair. So I've just written down name of researchers. We've got Land Claim Commissioner, community and attorneys. And so you don't have to sit in any of those chairs right now. Okay, you can stay. You just start talking about your grievances, about your challenges, about anything. And then at any point you can sit in a chair and represent the Land Claim Commissioner's voice, attorneys, or community. You can sit now if you want to. And so the way it works is you can respond, the voice of the community or the attorney or the Land Claims Commissioner, respond to what's being said. If you want to stand up and explore a different voice, you're welcome to go and sit in another chair if it's open. If it's not open, you just go and stand to the left of the person who's talking. Then you know that somebody else wants to come and explore that voice. When you finish saying whatever you're saying and exploring and sharing, then you stand up and walk to another chair if you want to. Wow. Does that make sense? Should we just try it? You good with that?
I don't want to throw a wrench in what you're doing here. I really don't feel comfortable talking in any of these voices.
Okay.
So as much as I recognize we're in a safe space and I'm play acting here, it is quite a weighty subject that I kind of don't even feel
Okay.
comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've just been brought to my attention that time is up anyway. So
You picked a doozy.
yeah, that's okay. But thank you for being willing.
Yeah.
I think you get a sense of where we could go with it. Yeah. So if okay. Well, thank you for being willing to come up. Yeah.